This is Resolute and the Resolute Podcast, where we make men better. I am Vince Miller, your host, and today we're in a series entitled The Purpose of Man, and today we're discussing the topic of why men wrestle with their purpose. Men, welcome back to the program. If this is your first time tuning in, then thank you for joining us. The Resolute Podcast is produced multiple times every week, and we exist to make men better because we know men today face unique challenges on their quest for godly manhood. Therefore, we desire to help men grow by providing them with a spiritual game plan that will launch them toward being better men, fathers, husbands, and leaders. Because we believe when you make one man better, everyone gets better. For more information on our program for individuals and groups, go to beresolute.org. We have numerous great tools for men on our website, one being our free Men's Daily Devo. It is short and sweet to get in your inbox, so please check it out, along with all of our other resources. And now, gentlemen, let's dive in. Well, guys, today I'm joined by Dave Mergens, one of our Resolute associates. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Vince.
Yeah, you bet. You know, guys, we are discussing our purpose, and this week's challenge video addresses purpose and then the sub 3 points of that, the 3 purposes of a man. As we've already proposed, discovering this is a really big question with a 3-part answer. But today, I want to consider why we wrestle with purpose, why we wrestle with this big question. Dave, you know, we work exclusively with guys, and we have seen men struggle with this many times, right? So why do you think guys wrestle with this?
Purpose touches every area of a man's life. It gives clarity to who he is, his role in his work, in his hobby, and even in his relationship. It's inescapable to not deal with purpose as a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everything has a purpose, right? I mean, that's the basis of it. Everything that's created has a purpose, everything, including us. And so we're in the process of discovering that, right? And while we would love God to just give us the answers, I don't think we'd be very happy with the answer on this one if we got it. And a case in point would be Jonah. God gave Jonah a purpose, and Jonah didn't like it so much. But in this case, I think that God gives us and discloses purpose to us over a period of time, and it requires a pretty healthy search, right? We are going to have to search for it. It's part of the mystery of being God's creation. God just doesn't tell us all of it. He wants us to discover it along the way. And this forces us to ask what many people call the big metaphysical questions, right? Like, who am I? What am I going to be when I grow up? A question that never gets old. Who am I going to marry? What occupation am I going to live in? It forces us to ask all those questions, right? So, but Dave, tell me, what does it actually look like to wrestle? Like, you sit across from a guy, you can tell he's wrestling with purpose. What does it look like when he's doing that?
Yeah, it starts with an underlying discontentment in a man's heart. And then you start to see that manifest in searching all kinds of ways. Searching for different jobs, searching for different hobbies or interests, bouncing around in relationships. Men who are looking for purpose are literally searching.
Yeah, they're kind of on a quest of some kind, you know, looking for something external to us often. And you and I have encountered many men who are searching for purpose outside of themselves, right? And I think a lot of men out there find that to be a very disappointing journey. Men that seek after success and fame, building a brand or a name for themselves, a company, wealth, whatever it might be, they're searching for purpose outside of themselves. And I think there's moments that men then re-ask all those metaphysical questions again, right? Because every guy goes through stages of really discovering this purpose. It isn't one point in life, it's many points in life. Like, I can remember in college, I asked, what's God's purpose for my life in college? And it had to do with things like my occupation, my future, my livelihood, what I was going to do. You probably asked those questions, right?
Plenty of times.
Yeah, we all did. And they're troubling, right? And then we go and we get married right out of college, or maybe in college, I don't know, or whenever we choose to get married, and we have new questions that we start asking, right? But these new questions are just scaled questions. They're the same questions re-asked in a different way with a more profound scale. And then we hit the moment in life where we get our first job and we ask the same questions again because we find that job's not fulfilling to us, maybe. I know a lot of guys that have encountered that. And then we hit the midlife crisis moment of our life, and we ask the questions all again, and then we're empty nesters, we ask the questions again, then we retire, we ask the questions again. And this is because the answers are not found external to us in this world with things, yet we think that they are. And, the answers are not found internal to us either. The answers are only found with God. And because of this, it takes us on a deep process of asking the same questions over and over and over again. Dave, does all this make sense to you?
Yeah, it's very clear.
Yeah. So my heart inside of all this is, I think, just to share with some of the guys today that no one's foreign to this, including you and I, right? We have both wrestled through our purpose in life. One step, one stage at a time, and every guy is going to ask it. Every human being is going to ask it. I remember just a few years ago, when I started this organization, I remember I was transitioning from a fairly big job at a church to this role here. And I remember it was forcing me to ask all the questions again. I was 43. I was really struggling at this moment in my life, internally, not externally, just internally, really processing, what do I want to be when I grow up? At 43, right? The question never gets old. And then all of a sudden one day, my wife takes me out to dinner, and she is thoroughly convinced that I should start an organization named Resolute. And I'm like, I looked at her, I remember telling her she's crazy. That is a crazy idea. And I remember her saying to me, not only that she was not crazy, but that I needed to listen to her. And I remember going, okay, whatever. And I remember spending the next week in prayer about what my wife was challenging me to do, to start my own men's organization. And Dave, no kidding, for a week, I was on my knees in prayer. And I'm not talking about on my knees in prayer casually just a couple of times a day. I was on my knees in prayer for a week. And I remember I hit about the middle of the week, which was Wednesday, and I just had this overwhelming sense that I needed to spend serious time in repentance. And so I did. And for a couple of days, I just repented straight. Just in prayer, deep prayer. I really got lost in that moment. And then there was a moment coming out of that toward the end of the week, I think it was Friday, where I had this breakthrough realization that God was really just trying to get a hold of truly my heart. And, I know people will say they feel like sometimes God spoke to them audibly, and that's weird for some people, but I kind of feel like I had one of those experiences where, coming out of that moment of repentance, I felt like I heard God say to me, Vince, you told me 25 years ago at your grandfather's bedside when he was dying that you were going to spend the rest of your life doing for other men what your grandfather had done for you, which was mentor you. When are you going to start doing it? And I cannot tell you how powerful of a moment that was, where I was wrestling with God, where all of a sudden I paid attention, and out of that moment, in 2014, I founded Resolute. Out of that moment, I founded Resolute, this organization right here. And it wasn't easy. It was very painful. It was hard. It was confusing. But the answers weren't found external to me. They weren't even found internal to me. They were only found in deep prayer and relationship with God. And I don't think God was trying to torment me. I think he was trying to get a hold of me. He was trying to get my attention. And he was trying to get me to pay attention to him through the wrestling. It was through the wrestling. He wanted me to discover his purposes for me. And I think every guy goes through phases of that in their life, Dave. This makes me think of a text in Genesis 32, verses 22 through 30. And I kind of want to read it because I think it's worthy to read because it's so amazing. Of course, this is the story where Jacob is wrestling with God. And it's a fantastic story, so let me read it. It begins in verse 22. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 sons and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions, so Jacob was left alone. Now he's here alone in this desolate place. And a man, unnamed, wrestled with him till daybreak. So all night long, okay? And when the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip so that his hip was wrenched, and he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it's daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And the man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God, with humans, and have overcome." And Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" And then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." You know, I love this moment, Dave. And the reason why I love this moment is I love it because what we see happening here is a man wrestling through his purpose. We see a man wrestling with God. And what happens in this moment is that Jacob takes on a new identity, a new and permanent identity, because he has wrestled with God and because he has survived. And I think most men want to experience this moment, and they want to get to the end of the story, and they want the new name, but they don't want the process. And the big answer to me for why we wrestle with God is because that's the discovery process of finding our new identity. And Jacob found his identity by, through, and in wrestling with God, and only that alone. And the best part about it is he got to see God face to face. Don't you want to see God face to face, Dave?
Absolutely.
I do, and I think every man out there does, but we just don't like the process. So, Dave, tell me today, what would be a great call to action for men listening today? I mean, we've heard a great story. We've heard some of my life. We've heard you share. We know that wrestling is imminent. What is the call to action for men listening today?
A clear call to action would be for men to understand their struggle well enough so that they could articulate it to somebody else.
That's good. So what I hear you saying is that, kind of like Jacob, we need to understand the struggle so that we can tell other people about it. And that every man is going to struggle, so start figuring out how to articulate the moment that you're living in right now. And if you're struggling with purpose, guys, know that you're not alone. I mean, I've been through it. I know my friend here, Dave, has been through it. I know Jacob's been through it, and there's many other men that are going to go through it. Welcome it, embrace it, see God in it, articulate it. And it would be even great if you could articulate it good enough that you could probably share it with somebody else, right? But just begin with describing it. Because I promise you, Jacob will never forget this day for the rest of his life. This is a defining moment. And that's the show. Thanks for listening. Gentlemen, as we close, I want to remind you that none of this would be possible without you. Your prayers, your financial support, and your encouragement keep us going. Therefore, we would be honored to have you consider a monthly donation to Resolute. Even a small gift makes a huge difference for men around the country. And through the end of this month, with a gift of $10 a month or more, we will give you full access to our 1-year game plan for men. This will give you access to our web portal and app, which includes lesson videos, podcasts, daily devos, transcripts, and other material to help you grow in your faith as a man of God. This is a full-scale game plan that will guide you through a 1-year process of becoming the man of God that you want to be. And it will pay out huge dividends in your faith. Just head to the website, beresolute.org, click the word store on the menu bar, and then select donation. All gifts are tax deductible. We are a nonprofit organization. And guys, as we close, I want to hope and pray that you've enjoyed this podcast, but please know that the time we spent together is worthless unless you act on it. So do something today by getting off the bench and into the game. And I will see you right back here next time on another edition of the Resolute Podcast.